I stood on my dock, the late afternoon sun glinting off the water, clutching a letter that made my blood boil. 10 grand. A DULA 10,000 fine from the Homeowners Association for unauthorized watercraft usage. My pontoon boat, my pride and joy, the one thing that made this lake house my sanctuary, was the target. I glanced across Silver Lake, where the HOA board was sipping wine on their fancy patio. Karen, the president, caught my eye and raised her glass with a smirk that screamed, "Saw gotcha." Saw they thought they'd won. They thought they'd put me in my place. Oh, they had no idea what was coming. My name's Jack Thompson, and within weeks, I'd own this lake and I'd make them pay for every smug sip of that wine. At 55, I'd built a solid career running a logistics consulting firm, which I sold for enough to retire comfortably. Growing up in a cramped city apartment, I'd always dreamed of living by the water, flipping through boating magazines and picturing myself on a boat. When I finally bought my Pontooning sturdy, modest beauty perfect for lazy cruise sit, felt like freedom. So when I found this cozy cabin at Lakeside Estates, perched above Silver Lake's crystal waters, I was sold. The realtor mentioned an HOA, but brushed it off as hands-off, just there to keep the place pretty. I should have dug deeper, read every bylaw, but the sunset on the lake and the thought of morning coffee on my dock blinded me. I signed without a second thought. That first month was paradise. I kept to myself, fixing up the house by day and gliding across the lake by evening. I docked carefully, kept the noise down, and waved at neighbors. I even showed up to an HOA meeting, sitting quietly in the back while they droned on about landscaping and barbecues. Karen gave me a curt nod. No warmth, but I didn't think much of it. Then the letter came, slipped under my door like a coward's move. Notice of violation, unauthorized watercraft. My pontoon, they claimed, violated some ancient bylaw about boats over 18 feet or with flat decks. The fine? DULA 10,000, due in 30 days, and I had to ditch my boat saw. I was floored. There were dozens of boats on the lake, including pontoons just like mine. I'd seen Karen herself zooming around in a sleek speedboat. This made no sense. I tried to handle it like an adult. I called the HOA, set up a meeting at their pretentious clubhouse, and showed up early, dressed sharp, ready to explain that my boat was no eyesore. I expected a conversation, like I was a firing squad. Karen sat at the head of a long table, flanked by 4 board members, all with fake concern plastered on their faces. A recorder sat in the center, like this was a courtroom. "Mr. Thompson," Karen started before I'd even sat down, "we assume you're here to discuss a payment plan for the fine." I blinked, caught off guard. "Actually, I'm here to figure out why I'm being singled out when there are other pontoons on the lake." A guy named Richard, the treasurer, slid a binder my way. "No misunderstanding, Mr. Thompson. Flat deck vessels are prohibited." I found the bylaw and read aloud. "Flat deck vessels are prohibited in the swimming area from May to September. My boat's at my private dock, and it's April." Silence. Karen's smile tightened. "The bylaw applies to the whole lake. We have to maintain an upscale image. Pontoons, well, they're less sophisticated." I couldn't believe it. Less sophisticated? There saw other pontoons out there. Why me? Karen's voice dripped with condescension. "Those are grandfathered in. As a new resident, you're subject to current rules." When I asked for proof of this interpretation, Richard snapped, "We don't have to prove VY to that. The board decides what's best." It hit me. This wasn't about rules. They didn't like Meme because I didn't kiss up, maybe because my cabin was modest compared to their mansions. I stood, voice steady. "I'm appealing this, and I'm getting a lawyer." Karen's smile didn't budge. "That's your right, but appeals take time, and legal action means special assessments for all SAW members, including you. Just pay and move on." I left fuming, my dream home feeling like a prison. Neighbors watched me from their porches, whispering. That night, I couldn't sleep. The DULA 10,000 wasn't the issue. I had the money, but the injustice burned. Who were these people to dictate my life? By morning, I wasn't just fighting the fine. I was going to find out what power they really had over the lake. I drove to the county records office, a dingy building with flickering lights. The clerk raised an eyebrow when I asked for all records on Lakeside Estates and Silver Lake. That's a lot of paper, she warned. I've got time, I said, and she hauled out boxes of files. I spent hours digging through dusty deeds and plans from the 1970s, when the lake was part of a grand development that never fully materialized. The HOA's charter listed common areas like the clubhouse, but said nothing about the lake. Then, in the fourth box, I hit gold. A deed for Silver Lake, owned by the original developer, Silver Pines, never transferred. When they went bankrupt in '92, the lake was forgotten, stuck in a trust, and eventually handed to the county for unpaid taxes. My heart raced when I saw it. The lake was up for auction in 2 weeks, starting at due law $23,000. The HOA had no clue they didn't own it. I drove home, my mind spinning. What if I bought the lake? The idea was wild, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt right. I called my buddy Tom, a lawyer, and laid it out. You want to buy a Saw Lake Saw? He asked, half laughing. Yes, and I need it quiet. Can you set up an LLC? He sighed. This is about that fine, isn't it? Be careful, Jack. These HOA types fight dirty. They started it, I said. Will you help? He agreed, and by the next day, Clearwater Holdings LLC was born, untraceable to me. For 2 weeks, I played the part of a beaten man. I moved my pontoon to a marina, paid part of the fine, and sat through HOA meetings, looking defeated while Karen gloated about maintaining standards. Meanwhile, I studied water law, learning I'd have near total control over the lake's use. The auction day came, and I stayed home, letting Tom bid. He called at noon. Congrats, lake owner. $4 No HOA in sight. I felt a rush relief, excitement, and, a little vengeance. The deed was recorded, and Tom drafted notices declaring Clearwater Holdings as the owner, banning unauthorized access. I kept quiet, even at the HOA's summer party, where Karen bragged about new paddleboards, smirking at me. I smiled back, counting the days. Finally, the deed was official. That evening, I posted laminated signs every 50 feet along the shore. Private property. Clearwater Holdings, LLC. No access without permission. Trespassers prosecuted. I saved the big one for last illegal letter to Karen and the board, demanding they remove all HOA property from Saw Lake within 48 hours. The next morning, my phone blew up. Karen's voicemail was pure venom. This is a prank, and you'll pay for it. Richard was blunter. Thompson, if you're behind this, you're done. An emergency HOA meeting was called, and I knew I had to be there. The clubhouse was as residents packed in, shouting, confused. Karen banged her gavel, her face flushed. This is a prank. Our attorneys are handling these fake notices. I raised my hand, ignored until she had no choice. I stood, every eye on me. The notices aren't fake. Silver Lake was auctioned 2 weeks ago to Clearwater Holdings. The deed's recorded. Karen snapped. And how do you know this? I smiled. Because I own Clearwater Holdings. The room exploded. People shouted, some clapped, others stared in shock. Karen's gavel was useless. Richard yelled about riparian rights, but I shut him down with facts. Lakefront owners could access the water, but boating, docks, even the clubhouse's fancy setup, all needed Saw permission. The HOA fought back, sending legal threats, but Tom crushed every claim. When they ignored my cease and desist and set up for their July 4th fireworks, I called the sheriff. Watching Karen and Richard escorted off their floating platform by deputies in front of the whole neighborhood was sweeter than any sunset cruise. Residents flooded my permit website, and even Karen's allies caved. She tried one last stunt, claiming the auction was invalid, but the county shut her down. The HOA was crumbling. Residents demanded transparency, uncovering shady deals like Karen's nephew's overpriced landscaping. I hit them with a $2 million lawsuit for trespassing and harassment, listing every dock, buoy, and torn-down sign. Their insurance company panicked, forcing a settlement, a new board, transparent bylaws, Karen's resignation, and a public apology. The day Karen read that apology, stone-faced, I felt no glee, just quiet relief. The lake was mine, but more importantly, the community was free. I set up a fair permit system, free for all, welcoming every pontoon. That summer, Silver Lake buzzed with life, new families moving in, drawn by a neighborhood where everyone belonged. Some like Karen left bitter, but I didn't care. Each evening, I cruised my pontoon, while VYing at neighbors who waved back, their toast warm, not mocking. Sometimes, fighting bullies doesn't just fix your problem, it builds something better. Now, what do you think? Was I right to buy the lake and flip the script, or did I go too far? Should HOAs have less power, or are they needed to keep neighborhoods in check? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're Team Pontoon, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy fights back. Let's get this debate rolling.